We all have those days where we just don't really know how to start a melody, or you're just feeling beat blocked that day. So in this video, I'm going to show you 3 methods you can use to get the ball rolling. Alright, so we're just going to use a flat sound. So I got Keyscape loaded up, just a random preset. So the first method you can use is to actually invert your chords. So basically an inversion is when you grab the bottom note and you pitch it up an octave, and basically the second note on the chord would basically be the bottom note on the chord. If these, if we have these like this, just a regular triad, you can pitch them up and just get a different sound for it. And that's the basic kind of music theory of what it is to it, but you can do a lot more. And I don't know if it's a different name for when you like invert the top notes down. I don't know if that's still technically an inversion or like a reverse inversion or whatever. I don't know like the terminology for that. But yeah, just mess around with your notes. You can get a different feel for it, which can just make you spark a different idea for where you want to take the chords. So you can see doing this will kind of create that lower sound, whereas having it like this and then having that last chord, you see how it's pretty low, so those don't really sound too well together. So inverting that down kind of makes everything flow a little better. Yeah, you see it kind of just flows a lot better like that. So playing around with that can help you build chords that you wouldn't typically build. And yeah, it just helps you spark different ideas. And then you can go and add the root notes up an octave to kind of fill in the EQ a little more. Alright, so I'll show you one more example of this. So I got these 3 chords. And yeah, so you can basically do, I think this is called a second inversion. The first inversion is when you invert the root note, and then the second one is when you do the third note of the scale, of the chord. So if you just invert these two, and then you'll have it sound like this. And so that pretty much just brings a little more high end, and then you can just grab your root note, you could bring this down like this. So you can see those minor chords sound a lot different when you invert the notes and you add a bass note down. So that's a real easy technique you can use when you're kind of struggling with building chords. But I'm going to show you a different technique you can use when you're trying to find the right sound to use. When you're starting a beat, sometimes you kind of just want to pick a sound first and find the right sound. And you'll be going through your whole library trying to find that right sound that you can't find. And you're just playing everything on the keyboard, you play this sound, it's like, oh, it's alright. You play this sound, like, it's alright. But the problem with that is that you don't hear the full potential of the sound. So sometimes it's better to actually just build a simple pattern first and then try to find the sound after. And now obviously this isn't a rule, it's just a different way to approach making beats when you're trying to start off selecting a sound first. Because sometimes I'll realize I'm just wasting too much time just trying to find that right sound, whereas you can just build a simple pattern first if you're having just trouble finding that sound, and then you can always rebuild a pattern after. So you can see I built out this simple pattern right here, and it's just something that I just made like super fast. I didn't really put too much time into it, but this is how that sounds like with that pattern. So I don't like how that sounds but in the beginning, but you can hear how this part is a little more muffled and it has a different sound to it, and that's something you can export and kind of manipulate in your own way. So even though that's not a sound I would necessarily start off with, just hearing it with that pattern kind of sparks a different idea of where you can approach that sound, like exporting it out and kind of manipulating it. So I think where this plays a bigger role is when you already have your main melody down and you're trying to build a counter. A lot of times I'll just go through sounds and I'll try to play something on the keyboard as a counter melody, but sometimes it helps in this scenario to just build a simple counter melody and then try to find the right sound that can blend good with that first melody. So if you're ever struggling just trying to pick the right sound, just use that different method to kind of approach your beat in a different way instead of just trying to pick the right sound first. So this last technique, I'm sure you've heard of it, but you just don't really implement it. So what's the last technique I'm talking about? The last method you can use is to actually use notes that are outside of the scale. So I'm sure you've heard this plenty of times. Music has no rules and you can do this and that, but a lot of times we don't actually implement that because we're afraid that it's just gonna sound bad. But sometimes I do this accidentally when I'm just playing chords on the keyboard because I don't really know music theory that well, and I'll play some chords that sound good together, and when I put them onto the piano roll and it finds the whatever root note I was in, sometimes a couple of those notes will be out of scale, but they'll actually sound good in that pattern, and that's because I did it unintentionally. So sometimes it can be hard to do this intentionally because you don't know what note is where to even start. So I'm going to show you how you can intentionally try to play notes out of the scale. Alright, so here's a real easy chord progression I just built out. So you can see all these 3 chords are in the scale, but then this last one you can see that this note is actually out of the scale. So basically what I did here is I just copied that first chord over to here, and then this second one right here I just copied it and brought it down like this. And even though this note is out of that scale, it still sounds good together. So I'll play it out for you. So you can see it kind of adds a little bit of tension to it. And even though there's one note that's out of the scale, the chord progression itself still sounds good. So when you're building your melody out, just remember that you don't always have to keep every note in the scale. Just play around with it, especially when you're copying chords over. You can actually find a chord that sounds good, even though a couple notes may be out of the scale. Alright, so if you found this video helpful, make sure you drop a like. And if you guys want to see another video just like this one, make sure you watch this video next, and I'll see you there. Peace.